So hello guys and welcome to another edition of Rage Against the Dice. Today we're actually going to be doing something different. I keep getting asked how I paint metal for orcs. So I thought I'd do a very quick tutorial and throw that up for you guys to have a look at. So we're going to start with Warplock Bronze. And of course we're going to water it down, but we're going to use Lamian Medium. And I'm only using a small amount, and it's quite a heavy dry brush over an undercoated black model. So as you can see, I'm being really rough with it. Proper getting in all the little spaces there. It doesn't really matter if some black shows through though, because it all adds to the effect that we're going for. So you can see there, just being really rough with it. I'm using an old large Games Workshop dry brush. You can use any kind of flat dry brush that works for yourself though. You can see there's a few little bits where the undercoat hasn't taken, and that's not a problem, because what I'll do at the end is I'll go and I'll tidy those bits up. As you can see, this is one of the models from Speed Freaks, so it's got that horrid red Chinese plastic, which I absolutely hate. So yeah, you can see we're just dry brushing across here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're using lead belcher. Now you can see my brush, I haven't washed the brush. Now I've done that on purpose. Now the reason that I have done that is because then bits of the Warplock Bronze will come through. So I'll be using the same dry brush. Now this I'm mixing on a palette. As you can see, it's a bit more watery, which means it's going to probably need 2 coats. Now I just filmed the first coat on this, but you'll get the effect when you see it dry. So as you can see, again, I actually use the back of my hand when I'm doing dry brushing. You can use a bit of kitchen roll or, you know, a sponge or whatever you would normally use. So as you can see, I'm just still being quite rough with it, and I'm mixing it between back and forths and circular motions. Now, I don't know why I do this, really. I don't know if it actually adds to the effect or that I've just done it for so long that I just do it now. So you can try and get what method of dry brushing is going to work for you. But again, this needs to be quite a heavy dry brush, but with a watered down lead belcher. And now lead belcher is the same as bolt gun metal, or whatever your equivalent of a bolt gun style metal is. You know, there's the Vallejo paint, so whatever you use. As you can see, I'm still pretty crap at filming while I paint, and I keep going off. I'm trying something different here, whereas I've painted it beforehand and then I'm doing the voiceover afterwards, because previously I try and talk while I'm painting and I get distracted. If this works, brilliant. If it doesn't, crap. We'll try again. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a null oil wash. Now, I did water this down, but very slightly, because I want it to be quite thick. Now, you'll notice what I'm doing with this is I apply it all over the model quite sloppily. And I'm using just a cheap brush, but it's got long bristles and it's a very soft brush. And I'm just going to coat it everywhere. Now, what I do next is while the the null oil or black wash, whatever you want to call it, bada black to those who are older, or just a black wash to those who are really old. But while the black wash is still wet, that's when I'll add the next colours, which is what you'll see here. I do wash the brush for this because I don't want contamination between paints. But while it's still wet, I add the Agrax Earthshade, and I'm not going to add it everywhere, because I just want that kind of beaten up look. So I'm just going to add it in a few places. And again, I'm being quite sloppy with it because it's orc. Now, you can use this metal with most vehicles and things like that. You just got to be a little neater with the later tidy up stages, but this works well for most. So there you go. Now, while it's still wet, you'll see I then add sepia. Now, of course, I'm using Games Workshop paints because I use those because most people use them, so it's easier for showing people. But you can pretty much use any black, brown and sepia washes you want. I actually quite like, for sepias and for chestnut inks and stuff, I actually like to use Winsor & Newton inks. But yeah, so you can see the kind of effect I'm going for. So here you go, this is it dry, and you can see that it's mainly blacks and bronze, but you can see the little bits of brown and sepia coming through there. and it just adds a little effect to it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry brush lead belcher over it. And for this, I'm just using a cheap dry brush. I think I got this from Amazon, a set of brushes for like £6 or something like that. And I'm now just trying to catch the raised areas, so it's not a hard dry brush like it was previously. And this is what I'm going to be doing on every stage after this as we work through the silvers. Now, it does look like it's a lot of steps, and you can probably cut some out as and when, depending on, you'll get a feel for it once you've done it a couple of times. But you can see I'm mainly just concentrating on the very raised areas. And you can still see that bit of red under there. I will just stress by the end of the video, I do go back and fix that just with a line of lead belcher. That's all I needed to do on it. Because by the time all the other highlights and stuff are done, it just fills in that little bit of red neatly. So it's not something to worry about. And with the inside of the barrel of the gun, I don't do that on this video, but all I actually did was I put a contrast black in there, and then I give it a very light dry brush of Dryad brown inside, just to give it a kind of scorched effect. But again, this was just a video to show how to do the metal, so don't you guys worry about it. So next thing we move across to is iron breaker. Or chainmail if you're using an older metal, or if you're using like a coat to arms or something like that. And again, I'm using it in the back of my hand, but you can use whatever you want. I just find the skin's much better for this. And again, just picking up the raised areas, nothing special. I'm not exactly the world's greatest painter. I've just been painting orcs for a stupidly large amount of years. I actually looked it up the other day, and it's been 24 years worth of painting orcs, 25 for painting Warhammer in general, being Skaven the first ones I ever went with. A little bit of trivia, not really relevant, but yeah. So there you can see, I'm just catching the raised areas. My camera absolutely not liking dry brushing because it's mounted just to the side of me. So next one I'm going to go with is Mithril Silver or Rune Fang. I believe it's Rune Fang anyway for Games Workshop's paints these days. And again, you just use your equivalent of whichever paint you use. Now, what I'm going to do with this is, again, it's a dry brush, and that leads us on to the final stages. And that was just a tiny little bit there just to show you just how little paint I have on the brush for this. Now, you can see these are my dry brushes I used for scenery, because that brush is absolutely battered. So yeah, you can give me some crap in the comments if you want for it. I deserve it. But these are the brushes that I use just for tot, really. Anybody who watched my brush reviews will see that I paid absolutely nothing for these, and I use them mainly when doing, as I said, bulkheads and things like that. I used them for some of the Necromunda scenery we did, and yeah, some Judge Dredd stuff and some other bits. But yeah, because it's the light silver, I'm just catching the very raised areas here. And this is just me getting the next paint. I know, exciting stuff. No expense spared with this video. Clearly done by a professional. So yeah, so the next step is Nuln Oil Gloss. Now what I'm doing with this is I'm actually making a glaze. So for this I did 1 part Nuln Oil. Sorry, I put some water down on the palette first. As you can see, I like my tile. I do. I just like them. I've got a wet palette, and it works really, really well. But yeah, so it was 1 part water. Then I added 1 part Nuln Oil, the gloss version, and then I added 3 parts Lamy and medium. You can add water, but you're probably going to have to be careful with the consistency of it. And really, it's just, as I said, it's just a glaze. And it just adds just a little bit to the video, that's all. Sorry, to the model. Again, I just coated across. And this is just going to lead us into the final stage, really, which is the edge highlighting. And then just adding some little scuff marks on, which we all do as one part. So there you have it. That's what it looks like. So next thing we're going to do, as I said, after the gloss, is just to give it a little edge highlighting. And for that, we're going to use Mithril Silver or Rune Fang. You can also go lighter with Stormhost Silver if you want. I just find for Orc Metal it doesn't work, but it does work really, really well for other things. If you want like a brighter highlight on it there. And with this, I'm just mixing it up. 1 part silver, 1 part Larmian Medium, or 1 part water if you prefer. And I'm just catching the very, very raised areas. You guys know how to edge highlight. You don't really need me to tell you that. Again, I'm just catching the very, very ends. And then you'll start to see in a minute, I start to add just some little lines. And all that is just adding some scuff marks. And again, it works really well for bolters. It works really well for vehicles. It works really well for orky stuff, really. There you go. So I'm adding just little chips and things like that there. And it just scuffs up the metal a little bit. It's really good if you've got really wide, flat areas of metal. It just adds a little bit of something to it. Now, this obviously depends on what you're painting. If you're painting something like Eldar, you don't want this kind of feel to it. I mean, this isn't anything special. This is how people have been painting metal for orcs for a number of years. It's just from my years working for Games Workshop and trading tips with other painters and stuff. And because I've been asked a lot recently with me painting up my pink orcs for Combat Patrol, because 9th edition Combat Patrol looks really, really good. It's just small little games, but yeah, I'm excited for it. But anyway, guys, yeah, as you can see, I'm just finishing up. So while I'm finishing up, I'll do my general plugs and things like that. So if this is the first time you've watched one of our videos, please check out some of our other stuff. We've got the Paint with Nate series, and he's a much better painter than I am. We've got, of course, games going on, a load of different ones. We're currently about to branch out to our Rumble Slam tournament to crown our 1 million Dosh championship team. We've got Combat Patrol, as I've said. We've got some more Orc stuff. We've got some Kings of War, Walking Dead, Rumble Slam, Gaslands. We've got a lot of stuff coming up. But yeah, so give us a like, give us a share, give us a subscribe, and hopefully this video wasn't too taxing for you. Let us know in the comments if you found this helpful anyway, and if you'd like me to do more small videos like this. Break the dice, gods, hope they smile upon you, and take care, and bye now.